But essentially what they're doing is they're capturing the energy from the sun in DC. There's two types of electricity current. One's AC, the other's DC. You're probably familiar with them. The reason why I explain that is because another key component is the inverter. So when we capture that energy from the panels, it has to go somewhere, and where we take it is to an inverter. And that inverter, just like the name says, it inverts it. It changes it from DC to AC, usable energy that everyone has in their home, business, office. 120 volts, so pretty standard. So the inverter is also a very key component. So now that we've captured the energy, we've given it to the inverter, now the inverter changes it to AC, and now what do we do with it? That's really the next big phase, where there's sort of, I'd say, three different places for that energy to go. One of the main one is to your breaker, to power the circuits in your home, or a pony panel, which a lot of times we set up, which essentially gives it the ability, if we have batteries, to create a backup if the grid ever goes down. So that's one place the energy can go, is back to your main panel. The other place, like I just mentioned, is your batteries. And the batteries aren't necessary for a system, but they are the component that is required if you do want to have a backup, or you do want to provide energy when the sun isn't out. So that's the second one. And the third avenue that you can send that energy from the inverter is back to the grid. You can sell the energy you produce, not really sell. Those tariff programs don't exist anymore. They used to have them, but now the main program is called net metering, which is a great program. If you are eligible.
Yeah.
Yes. So essentially what you do is you apply for the net metering program. Toronto Hydro is, if you're in the city of Toronto, is who you would apply through. And if you get approved, what happens is they put a new meter in your house, and it's a bi-directional meter. So it reads the energy going in, like we all have now, but it also reads the energy going the other way. And essentially what you do is, so if you're producing, like on a sunny day like today, you're producing a ton of energy, and you only need a little bit in your house to power some circuits. What do you do with the energy? Well, you send it back to the grid. And what it does is it keeps calculation of what you've sent back, and it creates a credit for your home for you to use for future energy consumption, which is great.
Anything other than just having your panels, and you're able to kind of benefit from that system as well in different ways.
Absolutely. And another benefit from that system, it takes you off time of day billing. So you'll get one flat rate for your energy 24 hours, and you create credits, which you get to use within one calendar year of the production of those. So there's three different ways to use the energy, and depending on your energy needs and what you can do, because not every house is able to net meter. Toronto Hydro has an application process, and they have limits to how much energy can be created. So not everyone is able to do it.
Qualify initially then, right? It's a qualification thing.
Yeah.
And we can learn more on, I can also post the link as well, but it's under Toronto Hydro.
I can send you some links for you to post to anyone that's interested. And that's really the first step, is applying. So I would design the system just basically, hey, this is how many panels we're going to have. This is how much we can produce potentially. And here's the equipment we're going to use. Send it to them, and they say yes or no. And if they do yes, great, you pay the fee. It's a couple grand, but that's for Hydro to come. They close the power off. They take the old meter out. They put a new one in, turn the power back on again. And then you start creating credits, which is great. So as long as you're producing at any given point of the day more than you're using, that all feeds back to the grid, and you're creating credits for future energy use, which is great.
So we know what it's made of and how it's working. How, in terms of like how many panels we actually need, how do you calculate that? Like, how does that work?
So when I go into a new potential project, the first thing, besides a little education, is trying to get the outcome. What does the client want at the end of the day? Do they want just a net meter? Do they want to have battery storage and backup? And also, what kind of loads? Like, how much energy do they use? Right? Every appliance is different. So if I were to say I want to offset 60% of the energy in the house, I would go around to every appliance, dishwasher, stove, fridge, and I'd go and I'd find the specs, and I'd find out how much energy each of those use. And there's ways to determine, how much, based on this, how much you'll use your fridge, how much energy will it use in a day, kind of thing, or how often do you do your laundry. So there's basically a way for us to determine your energy usage. We can also look at your old energy bills too.
Right.
So we can see last year how much energy you actually used. And now it's like, okay, now what do you want? Do you want to offset 100%? I
Mhm.
mean, that's in the residential arena, that's not always the best because it's very, very expensive. It's doable, but it's often outside of somebody's budget for this. Um, and then, okay, so, oh, we just want to really save some money. Well, we can net meter and we don't have to have any storage. So batteries are the most expensive component of the system, especially the high end batteries can be very expensive. But if you have a lower budget, we can work around that. If you just want to save some money, we can net meter only, no storage. So if the power goes down, unfortunately, you won't have any backup. And at nighttime, you won't have any production. So you'll be using 100% of the grid, which isn't the worst because at night, that's when the grid is the least expensive
Mhm.
to use. If you want to do a hybrid where we will have some battery storage and be able to net meter, so we'll be able to export. There's inverters right now. The technology is great that you can do both. You can do all three. So you can use the energy as it's coming right from the panels right to your circuits, or you can charge your batteries for use at night, or if the grid goes down. And if once that's all satisfied, you can sell your energy back to the grid. So I really customize each job site and tailor it exactly to the needs of the client. So there's such a range of what we can do. You know, even just the panels alone, there's 30 kinds of panels. The inverter, they're all different, but they're all designed for specific purposes. And then the batteries, we can go from just basic flooded lead acid batteries all the way up to some of the top of the line lithium phosphate batteries that are out now that are very, very exciting and have huge potential, long lifespan. So back to your question, I tailor it to each client's to needs depending on what they want.
Depending on exactly like your lifestyle and how much electricity is being used and needed, that's what actually generates
Exactly.
quantity
Also,
pricing.
the location. Location is key. So many people have come to me saying, "Oh, we want to do solar," and saying like the beaches in Toronto, great neighborhood. People love the environment there. They've got the money to do it, but there's trees everywhere. The whole beach is covered with trees and shading, or they're next to a big building. So there are logistical issues with the actual location of the structure. Your roof too, what kind of slope is it? Those things will all determine how much we can produce. That being said, the panels have really become very efficient, and you can capture a lot more energy with the same size panel compared to 5 years ago. So we don't need to put a giant array to create enough energy for most residential homes. One of the ones that I've completed on Euclid Avenue, we put up 14 panels,
Okay.
14 panels, and the wattage were 365 watt panels each. So essentially, it's about a 5 kilowatt system,
Okay.
which is, I'd say, not on the small side, definitely on the medium to large in terms of how many panels and what it can produce, 5 kilowatts. For cottages, we typically don't go over four really. So
Would
we'll put
a home
8
have,
panels on a cottage.
would a home have around like the 10 to 15, or would you add like five? Again, it's dependent on what they need and the
I,
size.
it, Well, if we're just exporting the energy, the way we string panels together isn't as important. So we can have odd number of panels,
Okay.
but usually if we're using an inverter and we're storing that energy, we need to have an even number of panels,
Okay.
divided into two strings. There's ways to string an array of panels together.
Laid out.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm a dealer for a company called Sentinel Solar. They're one of the largest solar equipment providers in Canada, and I work with them, and they have an engineering team, and they design the layouts. So we get basically a rough blueprint of the building. They do a rough schematic, and then we put the panels up and we design it for each property. Everything gets designed. The capacity of the panels, the inverter, the batteries, boom,
Placement.
and we usually present a couple options too, so that they can see, based on if you only want to do this, then we can give you it at this price. If you want to go up and do some more and have storage and have pretty good batteries, we can go like this. Or we can go to the nines and have the best panels, the best inverter, and the best batteries. And that would be probably the most expensive. Beg your pardon, sorry?
The creme of the crop, like creme de la crop.
Yes, exactly. And that's our job on Euclid Avenue. We did the creme de la creme for that project, which was very exciting. Some new equipment that I hadn't worked with, which is always a challenge. But the clients have an exceptional system right now, and our target was for them to offset between 70 and 80% of their energy needs.
Mhm.
So it'll take time for us to see how that is going. We commission these systems. There's many little settings that need to be fine tuned, and every system's different. So you kind of have to go week by week or month by month, see how everything goes, and you make the changes. Essentially, after a few months, the system is a well-oiled machine, working very well.
Right.
And we have a lot of from these companies that allow us to monitor in real time the production of the panels and what's the system doing right now. Is it using from the grid? Is it selling to the grid? Is it charging the battery, or is it sending it to the loads? And these clients, because they purchased a very top of the line inverter, have
Mhm.
access to this, so we can log in and they can see in real time what their system is doing, which is really nice, you know.
Mhm.
And then of course they get their energy bill now, and they're seeing how little they're paying for